So for the next part of the lectures, we're going to go over a few different shapes, one being the Ponnuki, mouth shape, table shape, and bamboo joint. When we first start playing Go, one of the first things we learn is the tiger's mouth shape. Now, a lot of people don't put a name on it when they're teaching Go in the beginning, but you can clearly see that this is something that everyone's taught, right? The first thing is how to capture. And so if something goes into the tiger's mouth, the tiger eats. This is what creates what we're going to talk about now, known as the Ponnuki shape. So when we look at multiple Pannukis here, we see that each one kind of has a different value depending on where they are. A Pannuki, they say, is worth roughly 30 points. This is how good this shape is. And the reason being is because it is nearly indestructible, right? Like in this case, this one's already alive. It already has two eyes. They're very flexible and easy to make two eyes with, and they command lots of influence. We can see that this one in the center commands influence pretty much everywhere across the board, whereas this one in the corner only projects influence on the left and right side immediately next to it. So, depending on where these Panukis are, is depending if they're worth 30 points or not. But generally, the proverb is what it says. They are very valuable shapes and something to keep in mind. We're going to look at some examples. So in this case, if black was to, let's say, play here and white played under and black attached, Hane pulled back, and then this is almost like an Atari, but it isn't, right? It's like a tiger's mouth that's full. But now white has two cutting points. So let's test out, what black can do in this situation. So if black cuts on this side and white Ataris and black counters and white takes and then black takes. So now we see that white has a Ponnuki shape and black has a kind of a corner in his own start of a Ponnuki shape, right? This is the tiger's mouth. So when we look at to assess the board, black got certain cash, right? This is very clear that black got some points here. And for white, white got influence, right? White got influence that is resonating on these sides of the board. Also, the one good thing about white is white got sente. And so this is actually a kind of a big plus in this case. So this is considered fairly even. Even though black has, more points, white has more potential. And it's because this white group, it's very hard to kill, and so it's going to be very useful for fighting and making territory. Let's look at an example where black plays on the other side. Well, actually, let's look at if white plays on the other side. So instead of taking this Ponnuki, right, which we know is usually a good shape, let's not take the Ponnuki and see what happens. So in this case, black gets to threaten an Atari, which is threatening a Ponnuki, by the way. So white blocks and now makes the empty triangle. We've talked about this. This is considered bad shape. Black needs to come back to help his stones and to put this in a ladder. And white should fix to help its group. And so now we see that black takes the stone. And what do we have here? We have the Ponnuki. It is once again this very familiar diamond shape. And as we see, the influence is projecting on like multiple areas, right? And so this Ponnuki, this high Ponnuki, is considered very, very valuable. The outside looks more valuable and has more potential than the inside here. This is considered better for black. We see white has a corner, but it's still technically not alive, but it should live. Let's move on. There are some more examples. So if we looked at this one, let's look at the other one. So let's cut here. Now, if white goes for the Ponnuki and black counters, and then black sets up this ladder, as long as the ladder works and black gets the next move, then black gets to poke at this Ponnuki, poke at the living shape, and then take this Ponnuki for himself. So we can see white's Ponnuki is only facing the corner and got sealed in. So this Ponnuki is not nearly as valuable as black's, because you can see black has focused on the outside and has influence pretty much across the rest of the board and got to seal white in. It's kind of night and day which one is better, right? Which Ponnuki. So when we go back to the very beginning, it's very clear that white should focus on getting a Ponnuki on the outside more than the inside. All right, we will move on to the next shape.